Alrighty then, looks like a set 5 start from Krook here, but I think that this is just how he lays out his hand cards. We have the handshake. We're going to start game 1 of round 3, and Crystron, a heavy combo deck, even though Halkai Vibrax is not in there anymore. We're going to see a huge combo here, I'm very sure of it.
I love this because Krook took the approach to include the Kashtira cards into his deck, and he has that new super powerful card that was just introduced in Supreme Darkness. Such a powerful card because this card, Crystron Chistaros, is everything the Crystron deck could have ever asked for, because if your opponent activates an effect, so very popular nowadays, having some hand interaction like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler or Ash Blossom, Chistaros says, as a quick effect, I may as well just Synchro Summon with another material from the deck.
That does sound familiar for Supreme Darkness, because we now also Ritual Summon from the deck just a few years after we started Fusion Summoning from the deck, so I see a pattern.
Yeah, for sure. I like the evolution of all the summoning mechanics. Oh, we have to link off the Chistaros here, or do we Synchro Summon maybe even? But with the Fenrir, that would be level 9, so I'm not sure whether that's a Synchro Summon to be... Oh, of course it is, but that's a very interesting cover. That's not very standard. We have to go into the Vermilion Dragon Mech here, which I haven't seen personally since Virtual times, to be honest.
You topped the YCS with that card in the extra deck.
Didn't really have to summon this card too often, to be honest. But yeah, it was in my deck, that's true. Okay, now we can use the Graveyard effect though, so it's good to get that Chistaros into the Graveyard, because not only does it have that super powerful on-field effect, but next up also the Graveyard effect, able to banish itself. And yeah, you will realize both of these decks equally relying on banishing cards from the graveyard. Therefore, both of these duelists, both Marco and Krook, hopefully not having to face too many of those Lanceas in the opponent's side deck, but there's Domino's Impulse on the Chistaros.
But that's huge, because you're missing out on so many effects. Summoning 2 monsters from the deck, already completely insane, but Vermilion Dragon Mech also should trigger when you destroy it and add back, I think, a banished monster, right?
Yeah, but that's a sad one. Pass Marco and his one trap card were powerful enough. So as I said, Krook very well able to interact with those effect veilers, infinite impermanence, and so on and so forth, but not with that so powerful Dominus Impulse.
Outplayed, I guess.
Yeah.
Very, very strong impulse.
I mean, to be fair, when you read that second effect of Chistaros, seeing, he can special summon 2 from the deck, you may as well just immediately go after it. And there we see Marco now revealing his deck to his opponent as well, Malice in Underground. And Mike, let us know, you actually have played this deck a lot yourself recently, right? You have even topped the regional with it, don't you?
Yeah, indeed, back in Athens, but I think the Malice in Underground is not a very good start, because it means that he probably doesn't have another name in his hand. However, it might be a bait in order to negate the special summon of probably Dormouse, and then he can actually normal summon a card like White Rabbit or even Dormouse and go through.
Yeah, very good call. Let's see, Marco definitely, by winning the first 2 rounds,
and he banished
knows what he does. That's
I was
interesting.
also gonna say that if you have Malice in Underground and something like a Dormouse or a White Rabbit and you want more non-engine, you can start off with Malice in Underground, special summon Chessy Cat, in quote-unquote from the deck. Now you banish it and then summon it back, and then you can get some more draws. But I don't think against this field you want more non-engine.
The only problem with that is that you reveal a lot of information from your hand.
That is true.
However, if Jessica goes through, it's a very good opening.
Yeah. Oh, this. I think it looked like another spell card, which should be another Malice in Underground.
I think, yeah, we are banishing another Malice in Underground. That's a huge start. Of course, Marco now behind on life points by paying 300 for that chassis card to come back, but still, of course, the 2 draws were super, super good.
I'm saying he has another name.
I would think so as well. I would not be surprised by that. Okay, we'll look into our extra deck.
Yes, because there is an interesting card in Marco's hand. He plays Metaltronus in the main deck. Do you believe that there is a target for Vermilion?
I mean, Vermilion is a fire monster.
Machine.
And it's a machine. Oh, machines for the Malice deck. Honestly, I'm struggling to find any. 2/7 attack. I think Marco just checked for that. He was looking for his extra deck, trying to look at all the attack points, but I don't think there is anything, to be honest. Okay, there comes Linguribo. His little brother Linkuribo not around anymore, but Linguribo perfectly legal as another Cybers monster.
That one is interesting. Now we're banishing the Chessy Cat. Usually high value play this time around, because we started with the Underground. not that strong anymore. It feels like Marco was really hoping to draw an extra normal summon with this Jessicat effect.
It looks like it.
It looks like a miscalculation, because if you don't find the extra normal summon or the extender, then you might have just gone for Dormouse.
Ooh, Haggard Lizardos is the card we summon. Now the Druisworm will take care of the Vermilion, and by sending into the graveyard, I'm pretty sure that the Vermilion is not going to be able to trigger its effect. Oh wait, is it?
No, destroyed it.
Yeah, it's just destroyed. So Krook just put it to the graveyard. We're banishing the
think that
Lizardos.
she cannot activate the lizard without a mountain on the field.
Oh, that's a good catch. Yeah, Krook is reading it real quick, and is actually mentioning that as well.
Because if he bans itself, because it's a reptile, he can draw a card.
I think Marco is just desperately trying to go for his deck to finally find a normal summon of a Malice Monster, but there already is one. He does have the Dormouse, so all of that essentially was just some baiting to go. But we do have to just make sure there is still the Lizardos banished.
I mean, it loses its target, right? If you banish it.
So the Forbidden Drop is now activated from Krook, though, so he was prepared for that. And we do negate the Dormouse. Looks like Marco just wants to head in the battle phase. Oh, we cleared the field on Krook's side, meaning we can now finally activate the effect of the Molcharmi Fuvalos that we started with going first, explaining why Krook could not play too much on his opening turn when he opens those cards like that. But Marco says, hey, I still will have to go into my extra deck here.
There were quite some cards in the end that he couldn't use on his first turn. But the thing is, if your opponent doesn't really play on his first turn, do you want to give him really some Fuvalos draws? I do think that is not the case. I think that you're going to say, hey.
And he also has information about Krook's hand. It's a unicorn, if I recall.
Okay, I think judges have now also caught up to the situation with the Haggard Lizardos, so I think we're going to double check real quick on whether that can be activated. And I mean, I totally understand your reasoning, Mike. Like, there is no target. When you banish itself for cost, like, what monster on the field would you target to, like, reduce the attack with? And Marco is reading his own Haggard Lizardos there at the moment, and I think that is currently what we are figuring out there.
It's something that is hurting my brain thinking about it, because it feels like it's like a cat chasing its own tail and trying to bite it, right? You have a target on the field, which is the Haggard Lizardos, but if you banish it, it's gone. So what happens now? Is it the chicken or the egg?
Okay, look, it looks like we are rewinding. Oh, and I think he drew
the Dormouse.
The Dormouse off of the Lizardos. That changes everything.
Yeah.
That is massively important here.
That is going to...
And also the information from Droplet and Fuvalos, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's see how we do that.
So I think while the players are rewinding the situation, let's go back to us to discuss the situation a little bit more in detail and how the Crystron deck actually wants to start their turns off, because we had an activation of the new card that was going to start something, but Dominance Impulse, still a phenomenal card.
It honestly also was one of the very few cards he could have had, because there is not that many. He's playing a bunch of Bystials, and that's why you play Crystron, because it's so immune against all those Bystials.
By the way.
Speaking of Bystials, play is resuming with Bystial Magnamut activating, so back to the table we go, seeing it live in action. Let's see. There is Magnamut.
He is now going to target the Magnamut. Yep, and... that attack is now going to change, and now we have the Dormouse, and now the Droplet is being activated. Interesting situation here. Talent is going to be discarded at this point. Now Fuvalos is activated, and I think that this might be the point where you just pass again. You don't want your opponent to draw if they couldn't really play on the first turn. So I would understand if you just go, hey, end phase, search for a Druisworm or something.
I do think so. On the other hand, look, when you just go into something like, let's just say an SP Little Knight banishes the door. Oh wait, no, SP Little Knight would not even be able to banish here. Yeah, I think you might be right. Just passing it could be completely cool.
Also, the SP would give a draw immediately.
Yeah.
It's making your situation a lot worse.
I mean, then you get Dormouse. Dormouse would then also get you access to White Rabbit, and White Rabbit gives you a trap card. So I think there is reason, but like the Little Knight, of course, cannot banish, and therefore there would be an additional draw going into like Link Decoder first.
The Dormouse was activated already and negated, so I don't think you get the White Rabbit.
Oh, you're right. Oh, true, yeah. I was completely coping there. And we just go battle phase. Marco attacks. the life points of Krook, and Krook therefore probably happy that he's getting another turn. And the Fuvalos, super impactful card, of course, this weekend. Loads of players relying on this card. It did stop Marco here, but it also gave no value to Krook, really, because he just gave up on the card in hand, so he has even less cards to play with now. But maybe he finds a desirable top deck now for his next turn.
Oh, and Baldrake is being searched, not even something like a Druid's Worm, but Baldrake is going to be an extra interaction for the field of Krook.
That is true. Krook thinking about things here. I mean, for the moment, Marco cannot bring out the Baldrake just yet because Krook does not have monsters on the field. But at some point, of course, Krook will have those monsters on the... Wait, though. There is no light and dark monsters in the graveyard at the moment,
Look
is
at
there?
the Druid's Worm.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, I was confused because Marco was left-handed, so I was there's only a Madison Underground in the graveyard. Oh, there is now the Kashtira Unicorn. We all know with small fields, with simplified game states, the Kashtira cards are very popular for being so good in those game states. And Krook is not only using those Kashtira cards because they're so good on their own, but he's using the Kashtira cards actually, and I'm hopefully ready to see this here. He's using them to transition into his Crystron engine in a very unique way, because if you get those 2 level 7 monsters on the field, what could be a cool rank 7 to go into, possibly? Any ideas?
Dracosac.
Dracosac it is. Then you go for the 2
Metaltronus.
tokens. Oh, Metaltronus, but on the Unicorn. So Marco does have a target for that. In the main deck, 2,500 tech. Any Bestial works here, right? Yeah. Yep, it does. We do bring out the Druid's Worm from our deck. And the Unicorn. Oh, Krook.
Can he actually activate Metaltronus?
Why?
I think it's supposed to be two of the stats, yes.
Okay, so
It's not the same type, it's not the same attribute, but it's
The same attack only.
it's only the same. Oh, sure. I was just casually saying that it's only going to be the same attack. But yeah, you're right. It has to be 2 different things. You're so right. And I think... Oh, Krook is, I think, revealing his last card in hand there. Okay. Okay, judges just... Oh, yeah, I think the judges are catching up to it. That Metaltronus. Yep. Krook is realizing as well there.
Metaltronus is like as a small world.
Yes,
in a
very
sense.
comparable to that card for sure.
And there's going to
that
be
would-
the
that would
infinite
also-
impermanence. I mean, you got some extra information there as well, which is something to consider for the judges of this situation, because getting extra information via a wrong card activation can be something. that
Unicorn,
is,
however, in any case, is very good against Malice, because Malice extra deck is very strict.
Yeah.
So he's a very handful effect to banish extra deck monsters.
taking out a white binder is huge.
Yeah, that's probably the first thing that you hit with Unicorn.
I wouldn't even think about it. Maybe there are other cards that are better against your deck, but if I see a Malice extra deck and I get to banish something, I would take the white binder.
Okay, so actually, we're bringing it back over to us. Here we are, because I think you guys realize that was the second wrong activation by Marco just before the game actually was about to end, and therefore, of course, we are going to have the head judge over. They're going to possibly upgrade the thing. We of course, don't know about that, but that has to be considered, so therefore, we are going to give it a little bit of time for the judges to figure out the situation. And in the meantime, I was already trying to tell you how cool that would be with the Dracossack, and I got to the point of Dracossack, but Dracossack then gives you 2 tokens. And you guys know what is going to be made out of that?
Cherubini.
Cherubini.
The Burning Abyss Link monster.
It is.
Can you explain me the combo?
Yeah, we are already at the Cherubini, and then Cherubini can send a level 3. You would think, yeah, maybe a Gruff, maybe a Skarm, like some PA cards, like a little engine in there, but no. Actually, Crystron Smyger is a level 3 monster. You send the Crystron Smyger to the graveyard, and guess what? Crystron Smyger can just banish itself and search you a spell card from the Crystron archetype, and there's a really good one just recently released in Supreme Darkness, being the Inclusion, and that can just search any Crystron monster from the deck. So you can actually bridge with your Kashtira cards into your Crystron engine, and that's really popular at the moment.
This just feels like Basti Tenpai.
That was my idea with Tempai. Yeah, the Tempai deck was actually doing the same thing, because there you could just send the Pydra and then you go into Promethean and bring it back. Same strategy, kinda. But the Crystron deck really wants to do that. I think they even, some people are even running Terror Top and Takum Toborg in this deck because they want that Cherubini so badly. So that's really interesting to see.
Also, it's a lot better for that deck because Cherubini can't really be stopped. It's a cost to send the monster to the graveyard.
Absolutely.
And with the Tenpai strategy, it was problematic because then you go into Promethean Promethean Princess, and once that gets Veilered, you've pretty much showed your opponent that you have nothing else if you're committing that heavily into that combo.
Yeah.
There is no Veiler that can stop that part of the combo. You can just play this very safely as your opening, and you're not even revealing any extra information via that, because with a 10-pie deck, I think you would leave the Fenrir or the Unicorn on the field if you had nothing else. And for this deck, you just go, hey, I open with my classic Kashtira start. You have no idea what else I have in hand. If you Veiler my first card that I play, I might just have 4 extenders for it.
Yeah, honestly, the start here for Krook was really unfortunate because this deck, the Crystron deck, is actually supposed to be really good against all the Bystials, and there's plenty of Bystials in the deck of Marco and in Malice decks in general. It's really good against Veiler and Imperm as well because it has so many ways of dodging them or even not interacting with them, like the Cherubini you just mentioned. And then the Dominus Impulse, just that one card. He really drew that one interaction that he could have had there.
Yeah.
And that one, of course, was amazing, and as we saw, just completely stopped what the Crystron deck was trying to do there.
I mean, Ash Blossom would have also helped. No?
Same thing, too. Yeah,
And
I
you
agree.
also use Impulse most of the time on the Treasures, or is there any other target on Crimson deck?
I think that was a showcase of why you would use it on the Tristaros, but I mean, you can hold it as well, because of course you can use it on the other effect of Tristaros as well, just holding it for your own turn and then negating the Synchro Summon from the deck stuff as well, which is good because it's one of the main major interruptions the deck has to offer.
I think that's I don't want to say weakness of the Kashtira cards, but Fenrir is such a strong end field piece. So if you're already committing to Synchro Summoning off your Fenrir as a material, you're showing that you don't have too much else, which is completely contradicting what I was saying earlier. I'm just realizing that as well. So basically, if you're going, hey, Fenrir, normal summon my level 2 tuner, and Synchro Summoning the Vermilion Dragon Mech.
Oh yeah.
If you stop this, I might have nothing else.
Indeed, yeah, it was really tough to see because honestly, I didn't expect him to go into Vermilion even, but that probably is just the only Synchro monster he could have gone into there. Looking into his extra deck, I don't think there's many Link monsters you play necessarily, so...
And I think the players are packing up right now, by the way. This must have been upgraded to a game loss.
I mean... Probably. I mean, Krook was about to scoop as well if the Unicorn gets stopped. But yeah, we have confirmation. True, yeah. Now, it was actually a game loss for Marco. You got to make sure, even on the feature match stage, that you properly resolve your cards and only activate them when you can actually activate them. And therefore, even though the start was not looking promising for Krook and his Crystron deck, he's up a game with that.
I mean, we have to take in mind that it's very nervous to play on stage in front of so many people, and it's totally logical to make some wrong moves.
Yeah, that's true. But still, you have to be aware of that and have to execute your deck. And I mean, he probably has been testing a lot. Marco is from Italy, so even he took the journey to be here for this tournament, so he definitely invested some time and energy into this tournament. And I'm sure he usually knows his stuff, but there, I don't think he thought about the Metatronus targets against the Crystron deck necessarily. But honestly, this might be one of the main factors for this event. I believe, and I'm making this call right now here, Metatronus might be one of the most influential tech cards for this event. I think main decking Metatronus for this tournament specifically, and we already saw that tendency last weekend over in the US from YCS Orlando. I think it's a really, really good decision because it has such major applications. It's such a strong card overall, defensively, aggressively, enabling you to extend sometimes even. So I think if I would be playing, I would definitely be thinking about Metatronus, but you have to know every single matchup with it and how you can use it against these matchups. And we saw just here, against the Kashtira Unicorn, not that easy to use it.
Yeah, illegal activations are a problem if you do too many of those. And yeah, you said it earlier, there are nerves on stage. I remember when we were doing a Time Wizard 2010 tournament on stage, I activated a Heavy Storm and didn't even destroy my own field spell, just grinning into Busty's face and then activating afterwards. So it does happen. It does happen even if there is no pressure. So yeah, that is a common mistake people make. But you're right about Metatronus, this card. I mean, the thing is, if you test a lot and you know your deck, you are very unlikely to make wrong activations. Yeah. If you're playing against basically every single cabinet, you have to interact with your cards against opponents' cards that are not that common in the meta, even though the Kashtira cards have been very popular in past formats,
They have.
it's much more likely that you're doing a little slip up here.
Yeah, but now honestly, the interesting part, and I know you are in love with the Melis deck, you have some love for it as well because you have been playing it too, but I would be so scared putting myself into that big of a tournament with 12 rounds of Swiss when I know that every single person in the venue has Artifact Lancea in their side deck. Like, how do you eliminate that factor? How do you go into a tournament? Do you just say, hey, when it happens, and I will have to do the best out of it and win the other games, or is there a different approach to it?
So the approach is, there are two approaches post side deck. The one is probably play the Thrust Engine with Sanctum and Debarrier.
Fair.
So in case that you get Lancia, you will set one of those big impactful traps
Fair.
pass again. And the other approach is to play Crossout. However, there is a chance that you also get Meowls, and you then have to play a lot of cards that are not very good going first. So I think the best approach is to play Thrust Engine.
Probably, yeah. And I mean, yeah, you just said it. Meowls now also a thing. So it's basically not only free Lanceas, but also the free Meowls that a lot of people are considering. But let's see what those options are going to be here in game number 2. Players are ready, so back over to the table we go. Game number 2 coming your way.
And I think that Jeff Jones, put it completely correctly, you kind of have to win game 1 with Malice.
Yeah.
It's very important that if Lancea is not in the deck, Malice is arguably a much stronger engine than the Ryziels. I know, hot take, but you want to win that game, and then post side going first, you have more options to beat Lancea. If your opponent puts up a combo, it's very tough.
And we talked about this card, newly introduced in Supreme Darkness. Mulcharmy Meowth join the Mulcharmy family, being the third one of them. And this one does not only interact with cards from the graveyard, but also from the Banished Stone, which is way more important. There's also the Mulcharmy Fuvalos. The whole family is there, apparently.
But we're already down to 3 cards in a combo deck. If you are having great cards in your hand that could stop your opponent, if you're siding in trap cards going first, there is a good chance that versus a hand of 4 cards, you can actually play it. I think that Marco has a trap card in his hand already. He's going to summon out the Dormouse, so I think we're maybe putting up a little field here versus Fuvalos, giving like 1 or 2 draws.
No, I think it's probably be White Rabbit to set follow-up with a trap. Krook doesn't get any search. And then I think that Solemn Strike will do the job.
Does he also play something like an IP Masquerena? Because if you're setting TV 11, you could set up Masquerena and the next turn summon out something for free without having to banish, and then go into IP and play an SP play.
Yeah, he does play IP Masquerena.
I think that would be fine. I think I would take my opponent having 1 draw for me to have IP Masquerena.
Interruption.
Sounds reasonable, I would agree. So Marco, what is he agreeing on? Of course, now having the pressure on his back, being down a game against Krook, not necessarily maybe being 100% familiar with what the Crystron deck is able to do, and therefore now facing this Mulcharmy Fuvalos resolving on him as well. Not the easiest situation to be in, but I'm sure Marco will find an answer to those questions, and he does.
MP7, I think.
MP7, yeah. Oh, wait, is it?
No,
yeah, it's MP7.
Yeah, it's MTV07. You're right.
I always call it 05. I don't know. But that's an
Can't
interesting
help you
choice.
on that, to be honest.
I mean, you don't have to. But that's a rather interesting choice, because to get the powerful banish effect, you need to have a Malice Link monster on the field. We're going into the Lingering, which is going to
first draw.
Give a draw here, and that is already a heavy commitment.
It is indeed. So maybe Marco just says, I will do it, no matter what. And we do now use the effect of a Bestial in hand, banishing the White Rabbit. There's our Jury's Worm.
I thought that's what you play the IP for, to be honest, that if you get Fuvalos, you still have a field.
Okay.
No, it's part of the basic combo, actually.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh, there we go for Cryptor now. Krook reading the Cryptor, but Krook, you know what? Before that, even draw a card yourself, because that is another summon from the extra deck. And Mulcharmy Fuvalos is heavily respecting that. And okay, that's it. We're passing after this. That is not too amazing, honestly.
Yep. So Marco now has 2 banish as an interruption, and of course the Solemn Strike.
That's not too bad. And also, his opponent is just at regular 6 cards in hand now. So he discarded 2, he drew 2.
Alright, so Krook Does he have answers to this? Just a regular good old happiest Feather Duster, for example, would be a pretty good start into this, and those cards have been becoming more popular again, because cards like Solemn Strike are really popular at the moment, so just having a card that could get rid of multiple of those cards, maybe an infinite impermanence along the lines of that too.
That hand looks phenomenal, by the way, when it comes to non-engine. I can see a Nibiru, which is suboptimal, but 2 spell cards. Spell cards usually very good non-engine right now, and now we're going to see some Crystron plays. And now, Basti, we have to resort to you here.
Yep, that is going to be the Crystron Soul Fafnir in the graveyard or in the hand, as we just see here. You can discard a Crystron monster, accept itself, and then you special summon this Soul Fafnir to the field and then destroy a card you control. Guess what? You will just destroy itself. And then you have the Tristaros in the graveyard, which we just saw has such an amazing graveyard effect set up. And of course, then also the Sylfafnir, which can special summon another Crystron monster from your deck in defense position. There you go, destroying it. Graveyard effect of Sylfafnir. There you go.
I mean, this looks a lot like Memento at the moment, so I see why you like it.
Yep. For sure, it is a really, really cool and unique combo deck, bringing something new to the meta game, even though it has its roots so long ago, right? Because the initial wave of Crystron support is ages ago, but the support now is really impactful, but it's still using those older cards back in the day from Invasion of Vengeance, actually. That's where the Crystron cards are from, which is, how many years ago is that? That's 10 years plus, right, at this point?
Invasion of Vengeance was the set where Totally Awesome came out. So that's 2017 or late 2016.
Okay, almost 10 years.
I think it was about November.
Okay, fair enough.
Why do I know
our history man here. History of Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay.
It was just after Worlds was won by Blue Eyes. That was right after that YCS Liverpool happened.
Fair.
Would a strike on a Sulfador would be appropriate, or there is a better target?
I mean, you mean the graveyard effect or the hand effect?
The field effect, that when it's summoned...
Oh, the Sulfador now.
Yeah.
You could do it. Honestly, I think you're really just waiting for them to maybe go into a Synchro Summon,
but
honestly.
The thing is that most of these cards just activate and then Synchro Summon, right? So does that count as a summon that you can negate with Solemn Strike? Or is this an effect summon?
When you're playing on your opponent's turn, that is true, but I think on your own turn, you're very often just using regular Synchro Summons, and therefore that's not really an issue. But now we first of all go into the graveyard effect of the Crystron inclusion. But very good question, actually. Whether Tristaros...
Actually, if a card says you do this and then you Synchro Summon, I think it's still a summon that you can strike. It's a regular Synchro Summon, yeah. Because you're just allowed to do this within the chain.
All right, Smyger. That's for level 3 Crystron I was talking about so much. One of the first released cards of the Crystron type altogether. And now in the graveyard, being ready to search another spell card from the deck. And I think it is going to be just another copy of Crystron Inclusion, as we have not even activated on the field yet. Only used the graveyard effect so far.
That's also one of the good effects, right? It just gives you a Crystron card directly from the deck when you activate it. Those are my favorite continuous spells that have great effects in the graveyard and on activation as well.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Do you know which card would be great against Inclusion? Oh, we have MTP07, which is great against Inclusion. I was going to say Cosmic Cyclone as well, but this does the job. You now gain some value by adding a Malice card from your deck to your hand, and then you get to
Note that it can be asked, though, and the bans will not go off if Krook has an ass in his hand.
I mean, also now with Marco activating a card, that means Krook could technically chain the Tristaros effect on the field, as that is a quick effect on his own turn, but also on his opponent. And there we go. Krook is using Tristaros, so we are now going to see, possibly for the first time, that Synchro Summon with a monster from the deck, if Marco does not want to have a word with that.
But if you strike this now, you can just...
it's tough.
He's going to get the Graveyard effect, possibly. You have to destroy a Synchro monster for that, right? For the Graveyard effect.
Which one do you mean?
Of Solf, the new Crystron.
So let's see.
For the Tristaros, yeah. So you have to pop a Synchro monster, no?
I mean, we already used the Graveyard effect to banish itself this turn. Wait, did we? No, we did not.
That was in the first game, so you need to destroy a machine Synchro monster you control. So if you strike this now and your opponent can't play on, there is a chance you end the turn.
Oh,
I think this is what Marco is going
for.
Because at this point, this is almost back against the wall. You have the Hard Crypta effect, but that's about it afterwards. So you really need to... that inclusion goes banished, I'm pretty sure.
Doesn't need to actually use himself to Synchro Summon, so even if Creator goes off, it doesn't matter because he can Synchro Summon with another target.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, very true. So that was very good that he did it there, because we could have just otherwise synchro summoned with the other monster on the field, which would have been a possible problem. We're searching for Dormouse. Marco needs all the follow-up he can get here. But does Krook have another push here? Because he definitely drew multiple cards with that Fuvalos there, so there's potential.
And now looking at this, there is another Fuvalos and a Meowth there in hand, but there's...
That's his graveyard. So
oh, wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But Marco, very smartly, not playing into something like Triple Tactics, Thrust or Talons, hasn't activated a monster effect yet. The Hard Crypta is sitting there waiting to be activated, but doesn't have to now. We're going to activate Droplet here.
I think we're trying to bring a monster into the graveyard that we want to be in the graveyard for it to possibly activate its effect. Checking the graveyard of Marco first of all, though. What is it going to be that we discard here? That has to be the reason. Oh, no,
best graveyard resource in the game.
Not necessarily, I would say. But Krook really keen on doing that here. Looking for his graveyard, checking out that Tristaros. Yeah, we tried to resolve that graveyard effect on the first game.
However, note that...
I think we just go
Typhon.
Oh, we just go Typhon here.
Huh.
There is Typhon.
Well,
but I mean,
works.
Typhon doesn't really do anything against the Dormouse that now is sitting in the hand of Marco, though.
Fair point, yeah.
So that means no more monsters are going to be summoned this turn. We know that from Typhon. Actually, Typhon has not been super popular in like the first couple of months after its release, but now with Ryzeal being such a big factor in the meta game, all of a sudden Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis is amazingly often played, and many people are relying on it because when you summon this into a Detonator, guess what? Detonator can't activate its effect, and you can just put it back into the extra deck with ease.
Yep, but you have to have some more follow-up. Typhon isn't going to give you the win immediately because a lot of the time there are some Ryzeals in hand and they can just play as they want, especially if there is a Fiendsmith engine in there as well. Typhon is going to kick for 2,900 damage here.
And I like the fact that he sent Crypter back to the extra deck, because if it's in the graveyard, it's very impactful. For example, a Beastal top deck.
That is indeed true.
We discarded the Nibiru here, which could have been something to fall back on if things go south in the next turn. Because if you don't have any interaction, that's just gonna be full combo for Marco.
Maybe we just do have another Nibiru? I could only imagine, right? Because what other cards do we want to have? Maybe we have Effect Veiler just to stop the Dormouse right away. That could be something.
The reason behind it was that I think Krook has only spells in his hand, if I can see.
I think I see the card in the hand, and this could be an end to the turn of Marco. Lancea, now look at the life points, 3,300. It's very, very close to game already if Typhon attacks over the Dormouse there. Dormouse not looking too strong. We are in main phase though.
Yeah,
so
but Marco has a talent.
Oh, it is triple tactic talent, so maybe Krook should have just preemptively done that. The problem though with doing it preemptively, of course, is 2,900 is not 3,300, so you may as well just have Marco pass, and you're in a bit of a iffy situation as well, but now Marco has to decide.
It's just a game of chance that you're playing in that situation. Do I just use it immediately, or do I play into the talents after my opponent committed into the Dormouse?
However, Krook could wait there for Crypter effect to activate on probably Typhon, because he has also, Krook has also a talent, so he could beat Crypter and activate in his turn.
Oh, we're taking the Typhon over!
Yeah, I mean, you have to get rid of it somehow, and I think linking this off into something like an SP could help here. Yes, you can't banish anything because Lancea has already resolved. However, it's a form of interruption on the next turn. Depending on what you have in hand, I think it's Dimensional Shifter that is not going to help you too much.
But I mean, exactly what I was talking about during the side decking process, right? Krook came so prepared for the Malice matchup. He has both Mulch armies and then also Lancea, and Marco, as we can see, is struggling so hard with that.
I mean, the thing is, what you can also do, you still have White Rabbit banished, right? So you just you can't go into Splash Mage. Never mind.
Indeed, he cannot. Let's see.
Cybers for that.
Marco really going to have a look at his entire extra deck here, essentially.
Does he have Dark? No, it's going to be SP as the last
exactly
resort.
What you mentioned, Leo.
But if he had a Dark, then he could have also not summoned anything important there.
Oh, and I think Krook just drew another Lancea, but he does still, of course, have the Tristaros in the graveyard, which, though, is not going to do anything without a Synchro monster on the field. Therefore, Krook has to pass it right back over. Marco, big sigh of relief there.
Oh, wow.
Is he able to play
Picks
now?
up Melisson Underground. This is a card that you definitely basically negate by discarding another Lancea. 1,600 damage is going to be dealt. Turns are going to be passed. Is Krook going to pick up another starter that plays around SP as well? Because that is a decent interruption. What is it going to be? 2,800 life points remaining on the side of Krook here. So this is a short clock.
It is really. We need a good draw here. Is it one though? Krook, do we have a play heading into the main phase? Looking into the graveyard. I think there might be something. We do also still have some in the graveyard that can just discard.
Crazy Ottle?
Yeah, he's playing that one, actually. That's not very common, but it could be the Christian Crazy Ortle. But we do just use the graveyard effect of Sulfafnir, discarding exactly that Crazy Turtle.
All right, let me read this card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Crystron monster from your hand.
Yeah.
Which is a bit unfortunate.
But I mean, we just use the graveyard effect here to discard it, and that should work, right?
Yeah.
Krook is explaining it to Marco. There's nothing we could banish right now with the Little Knight, as there is no other monsters on the field for the moment. So there it is, destroying itself again. We saw that earlier, and we can now just use the graveyard effect. So Krook has found a way to play the game. But how far is it going to bring him?
Yep, there is SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is always looking strong. If you get into your Synchro Monsters engine, you can activate your graveyard effect. That is also powerful. However, then SP Little Knight can take care of that monster. So you have to basically summon a Synchro Monster, attack over SP Little Knight, and then continue playing the game, if that is possible for you.
Yep, and there is now Crystron Sulfador summoned off of the Sulfafnir. The thing is, Sulfafnir only allows you to special summon in defense position. Otherwise, that Sulfador would have been good enough to just attack over the SP Little Knight, but now we use the Little Knight. But Smyger is still being sent to the graveyard.
Oh, wow.
I mean, sending Smyger to the graveyard is all we need because that gives us inclusion. Yep. And we're also going to send now the other one of the Tisvern, Crystron Tisvern, to the graveyard. And I think that's everything that that Krook needs because he has the triple tactic talents now to eliminate the last chance in his hand. And we can now use the Tisvern and also the Smyger, giving us not one but two interactions from the graveyard. Krook only has to eliminate another 3,300 life points.
And now it's just a combo tutorial from Krook when some resources are in the graveyard and some aren't. This is going to be a field day for him. He hasn't normal summoned at all yet.
We can search a monster with his burn, and we're probably searching just towers here. Yeah, there it is. Easy. And Marco is nodding. He knows that's not looking good. Smyger not even activated. Can grab us the inclusion as well. This is looking fabulous here for Krook.
Marco should consider the time also, because Malice is a very trick deck considering time, and if they go to game 3, you know, maybe a strict situation.
Yeah, but Krook is leading 1-0 and Marco is not having any cards on the field or on the hand, so I think that time might not be an option. I don't think that
on game 3.
I mean, Krook would take it 2-0 if he wins now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
in my mind it was
early.
Crystal Inclusion. I mean, Tristan has many powerful effects, but one thing that he's kind of lacking is a lot of attack points. Only 800 right now staring down Marco. But Krook is cooking. Krook is going to bring more onto the field, destroying the Inclusion now. Special summoning out, this time in attack position, the Crystron Sulfado. So that's another 1900. We're getting closer. Not much more attack points needed. There is now enough on the field. We do Synchro Summon. Krook, yeah.
That is a lot of super rares and commons on the field right now and in the graveyards. And there's the handshake. Krook takes it 2-0 with the Crystron strategy.
Oh, I told you from the beginning.
Marco almost had game 1 and then unfortunately made some major missteps in that one, leading him to get a game loss there. But Krook, just in game 2, Lancea, such a good card against the Mela strategy.
Can we give that though to Crystron? Because as we saw, Marco had two Metal Trons in his hand, which are very powerful against the meta.
Yes.
However, Crystron has a very good counter to the meta decks and to the decks that are being used right now. It could play very well around Metal Trons. There are no targets for it.
Yeah, it has crazy attributes. You can hit some of the attacks, and there's very few machines in the game right now as well.
Also, Bestials just kind of doing nothing against the Crystron deck as well. Honestly, it may have not topped in Orlando, but the European competitive scene I think is kind of known for being very creative, for bringing those little more spicy decks to the table and having a top card run with it. And I'm calling it now, and I'm calling it for the rest of the tournament. Crystron is going to be in the top 8. That's my call for it.
In the top 8 even. Oh, that's a
I'm
brave
telling
call.
you now.
But I mean, after this performance, that's like a very common thing you see in Yu-Gi-Oh! If there is a top dog deck like Ryziel and Malice, of course, as well, people are only preparing for those because statistically, that's the correct thing to do. You go into a tournament, you expect most of your rounds to be Malice or Ryziel. You want to be prepared for those two decks. And then if people bring something like Crystron and you look at your super teched out main and side deck, you're saying, oh, I have nothing.
Oopsie,
I have nothing against this.
And guess what? Yeah, Ryziel Detonator, cool with destroying a lot of cards. Crystron cards, very cool with getting destroyed, honestly, because they are just going to activate their effect in the graveyard. So I don't think the matchup for Crystron overall is that bad.
And they're just faster at it, right?
Yeah.
They're just destroying themselves. They're like, hey, you don't worry, Detonator. You don't have to activate anything. We're just going to do the job, okay?
And also players are not very familiar with Crystron deck, actually, and their combos. So they do not know where exactly to use their hand traps.
I'm for sure absolutely in love with this deck right now, and I think just it also, we did not necessarily see that here, but it's bringing so cool extra deck cards back into the game as well, because
Familiar
for example, true, we saw that one actually, not a usual one to see honestly, but one you more often see from the Crystron deck, for example, is FA Dawn Vexter. Love that card. Was really popular, for example, in Pendulum decks most of the time, but now it's back with this deck here as well. And then another one, all the Cyber Dragon enjoyers, of course, know already. Cyber Dragon Nova into Cyber Dragon Infinity. What a treat. It's coming back. And of course, another machine monster with that.
Yeah, also, if you get Nibiru on Nova, because you kind of have to Nibiru at that point, because otherwise Infinity is going to be there, which monster is going to be summoned?
Invoked Mechaba. Let me see, is Krook even actually running the Mechaba? Oh, what a fool, he's not. Yeah, because that is such a... Yeah, I mean, isn't it? Like,
I think it's crazy that sometimes in your crazy combo decks you can play cards like this. This is like playing Tearlaments a year ago, and for the Beatrice you're playing the Dante Pilgrim.
Okay, we're not there just yet. Crystron is not Tearlaments just yet, but they're on their way, trust. After this weekend, we're going to be there. Everyone is going to be on the Crystron train. To be fair, you said, speaking about statistics, it's statistically very likely that you're going to play against all those meta decks, but Crystron is on the board. They are actually mentioned on the deck breakdown here in the beginning of day 1. 3% of players on the field are relying on this Crystron strategy, which is giving me even more hope that it's going to have at least one of them having that successful run into the tournament. But I mean, still, of course, 2,500 players, making it into the best 64 of those is not an easy task at all.
What is 3% of 64?
Roughly 75, 80, doing some quick math here.
This might sound
Just guessing, actually.
This might sound even easy for you people at home, but we are incredibly bad. You're good at math, right? 3% of 64. Quick.
It's like...
of 64?
Oh yeah, top 64. 3%. If we converse this 1-to-1.
Oh,
3%.
Oh, okay.
3% of 64 is like 9%, I think, or something like that.
Oh, 3%, 9%. Okay.
All
okay,
right.
no, we are...
No, 9 as a value.
We have 9 Crystron's in top 64. Oh, that's all right.
Shouldn't it be like
so.
2 people? Because 10% would be like 6 people, and 3 would be 5, and then it's 2. And I think Ed is telling me something from the back that it might be 2 or 1. So statistically, should be 1 or 2 players in Top Gun.
There you go. I'm telling you.
1.9.
Ah, there you go.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah, I just calculated on my calculator, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Fair. So we are seeing those decks that, of course, are having a possible run here. Just saw the Crystron deck. Any other decks that are maybe not Ryziel or Malice, but you have high hopes for this tournament? Because we have just seen one of those rogue strategies winning. What are other decks that you're expecting? Leo, I know you have a soft spot for the hero deck, don't you?
Oh yeah, but I think that Hero is not performing so great in the 2 rounds we've had so far. I think that Mermail, we've seen this before, can make a great appearance here. But let's not talk about Mermail for this second. We're talking about a different water deck because the analysis is ready. Let's hear it from Krook.
From that, obviously, we'll try. And hi, everyone, and we are here with the winner of round 3, Krook. Congratulations on that amazing match. It was a great display, obviously, from a deck that luckily we were able to collect some information yesterday. We'll show some of the combos later on, but first and foremost, why did you decide to bring the deck? What do you like about it?
First things first, it's easy to get hold of. That I think is important. Like a lot of the decks right now are a little bit harder to get hold of some of the cards. You know, some of the cards are in higher rarity. I want to play something that was a bit more like off the beat, something that people wouldn't know as well. Because you know, when you're playing Rise or Fiendsmith, when you're playing Rise or Mitsu, everyone's got guns out for you as well. While Crystron, they don't really care so much about Bishop, don't really care about stuff like that. You know, like basically just a bit of a weird mix in there, and also not too deep in the wallet. Sort of thing.
Fair enough. But yeah, obviously the deck receives some amazing support in Supreme Darkness. Did you used to play the deck back in the day, or is it just a completely new experience for you?
So within the main game, I wasn't playing. However, I was playing Duel Links. So I saw the stuff come out, and I was like,
fair enough.
It's time to relive the old days, you know what I mean? Like, it was the same thing with Melodious when that happened. When the Melodious stuff came out, I was like, I spent Duel Links. Let's go.
Okay.
Have fun with that. Like.
Yeah, so now let's try to bring up the first clip for you, and that is your opponent, which actually decided to use that impulse to stop your Kriston Tristaros. What were you thinking about that? Yeah.
I was thinking, right. I was thinking the only thing that stops me here is an impulse. I had a talents in hand, so my theory was either I could go the effect of the mech to go to pop itself by banishing banish Tristaros and then use Unicorn and yada yada, or I could do that, play into Ash, and then go talents like draw 2 or rip 1, like try to get through to the next turn. Unfortunately, there was an impulse. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But it's like sometimes you got to choose what you're going to lose to. You know what I mean? I was
Absolutely.
Like, maybe not impulse, and obviously it happens. So
gotta pick your poison, and sometimes that's how it goes. And unfortunately, I gotta show real quick the second clip, which is the bittersweet moment of this ending of game 1 when it looked as if you were with the back against the wall. Unfortunately, I mean this stuff happens. This Metaltronis was activated on the Unicorn. We thought it would have a target, but I mean you have to have at least 2 conditions met for the card to resolve, and in this case it was just the attack of Druid Swarm, so this was unfortunate, but since earlier on he already made a PE minor for a different play, it was ended the game loss. But I mean, playing on stream, I think you can confirm, is quite nerve-wracking.
It's stressful, so my opponent, unfortunately, he didn't want to go on originally, and I don't blame him, because it's quite stressful.
Yeah, makes sense.
Unfortunately, I have a really big ego, and I love being on stage, so...
okay. So then you don't feel that much of a pressure, and I think you showed it with what we can show with, I think, a really good decision in the next clip, which is the start of game 2, and I want to know if you were trying to go for a bait. So let's show the next clip. So here you draw 2 Molcharmies cards. Yep. What were you thinking right now? Did you try and bait out the Ashen, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I was like, if he ashes it. I go the other Mulch. That's good.
Yeah.
Usually with Meows, I try to hold on until they start having to actually spec something back, so that I can actually guarantee, because like Malice can just sit there go, okay, and they can sometimes sit on red ransom and just like pass, or like, one of the other Link Frees. I'm really bad with names. I know what it looks like though. So I'd hold that, because out of the 2, I was like, I'll pitch it here, see how it goes. And if not, we can just get some draws, and we'll see, just like make them commit. So either way, it was going to be a good thing for me, kind of thing. Yeah. Unless they had Cool Buy, of which...
I mean, you take it again. You cannot beat every single card, and I think that was a good recognition. But there is a similar situation. In this case, you chosen to play around, that card, bait out the Ash, see what happened. But in the next clip, there is maybe the controversial decision, which is this Lancia, which you decided to hold for not using it in the draw phase to play around talent. And it could cost you this game, Shu. What were you, thinking in that moment? What was the decision about?
Thinking? Not very much. So it was more of a case of I was just like, you know what? He's only got 2 cards in hand. Maybe there's nothing here. And like again, it probably went better just to drop it in draw phase. But I wanted them to commit to at least something, so they kind of start. Like if they have to use a Dormouse, and because I was totally reliant on that top deck. I was like, if they commit to a Dormouse and they can't use effects and they just have to sit on that, then at least I can swing over it with Typhon. If they have talents, they have talents. It is what it is. But at the very least, it's not a case of I'm top decking, missing, and then it's Norse on Dormouse anyways, and I lose. So it was,
I totally get it. I think in a normal situation, it probably would have been all the time correct. The only thing maybe was that it was sitting only at 3,300, so there was a chance that if he doesn't want to set the Dormouse just to stay, I mean, you could probably just take it with any monster. But I mean, it's a close call for real.
That's the
thing. I think you returned the favor with the talent in the last clip, which was basically the checkmate, right?
Yeah, I was like, want to make sure there's nothing in hand. absolutely just like confirm that there's nothing there. Like, because otherwise there's an Ashe there or something like that, I could lose my entire game. So I was like, just get rid of it. Obviously it was a shifter, so it wasn't a problem anyways. But yeah. I also get like, do I draw 2 here? I was like, yeah, but what should be an Ashe or something? Like I was just like, nah, it's fine. I'll just get rid of the hand, confirm it, make sure I can play safely. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any Crystron synchros out. I only made 1 synchro summon the entire game, so showing off the synchro archetype's been going well. But you know, it's fine otherwise.
But absolutely. I think everyone enjoyed your match for sure, and you're undefeated. So round 3, congratulations again for this great performance. I think you got a lot of new fans watching you, so we'll wish you best of luck for the remainder of day 1, and hopefully we'll see you again. So thank you guys for being with us, and let's go back to